Hello, I'm going to see how quickly I can describe the top 10 mistakes that flute players make. I jotted down a list of the most common ones that I see. Number one, squeezing the flute too tightly. Oh my goodness, is this common? Think to yourself, is my home bass hand position a high E flat and I pick my fingers up, which involves a lot of effort? Or is your home bass hand position a nice C sharp in the staff and you let your fingers fall down? I would recommend the C sharp for more ease, comfort, and flow. Number two, jamming your flute into your face. It creates such ripple effects of tension in your jaw, your neck, your shoulders, all the things. And, some people feel like they have to do that because otherwise your flute's jostling around. Well, that's because your hands are doing too much heavy lifting and just aggressive playing. So a C-sharp home bass hand position with a balanced approach instead of a gripping approach will mean that just contact, but no pressure should work. Now there's rare exceptions, like if you're playing some low notes with some fierce accents, okay, you might jam it into your face for that moment, but then go back to contact, but no pressure for an easier relationship with your instrument and less ripple effects of tension. Number three, not breathing. You would think that this one's a no-brainer, but flute players just don't breathe. They're obsessed with exhaling, blow, blow, blow. But man, the inhale is where it's at. Don't forget, the room is full of free oxygen. Go down the rabbit hole of discovering how can you take fuller, more meaningful breaths that feel good to you, including the timing, whether it's a catch breath or you've got tons of time to breathe and maybe you're doing a nose breath or a mouth breath. Discover it all, but be way more obsessed with the inhale, because if you're full of air, you can do a lot more with the exhale. All right, number four. Again, you would think this one would be obvious, but so common. Flute players don't listen a lot of times. And usually the clue is that they're in struggle of some kind because they're in the to-do list in their heads, or the supposed to's, or the conflicting information, or the frustration, blah, 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 the busy brain. Well, if you get into the world of sound and feeling, feel the air come in, listen to the sounds you are making, listen to the way your flute sounds blended with the piano, a lot of things start to make more sense, including tuning, dynamics, all of the nuances and subtleties that you want to include in your beautiful flute playing. It's all in the world of sound and feeling. So listen. Number five common mistake that flute players make is feeling like there are music police. Like there is music police. There's no music police. They're not in the sky. They are in your head, but you can get rid of them because you're in charge of what's in there, believe it or not. There's nobody looking over your shoulder going, that was wrong. You need to do this better. You're not good enough. That really comes from years of feeling like you have to be perfect. And true, you need to play in time, in tune, and always aim for the most beautiful stylistic interpretation possible. And yeah, if you're in an audition or competition, of course there's some kind of comparison going on, but it's always going to be more convincing when you believe in what you're doing, when you feel what you're doing, when you're in alignment with your own connection to the music. And feeling like you're constantly in trouble is not conducive to that. So remember, there are no music police except in your own head. So get rid of them. Okay, number six mistake that flute players make, not following through. Now, the type A perfectionist flute player watching this video might immediately think, I know, I don't follow through. I need to practice more. That is not what I'm talking about at all. I'm talking about following through on any given note that you practice. So if you've got some advice you're trying or an experiment that you're trying, and you're like, I'm trying this thing with my tongue, you're never going to find out if it works or not because you actually have to follow through on the pitch to discover the sound. And if you want to do an experiment, you could even do the experiment in flight while you're sustaining. You can do so much as long as the sound is still ringing in the air. So you got to follow through. If you think of any sport, football, baseball, basketball, there's always a follow through. Flute players need to have a follow through as well. Okay, number 7 mistake that flute players make, not trying enough experiments. If you have a good idea or a good piece of advice or a change you'd like to make, try it a bunch of times. Try it a bunch of different ways. Walk around the room and experiment with the experiment. When you stumble on something you like, you need to do it so many times in order to get any kind of muscle memory, familiarity, connection. Don't try something a couple of times and go, this doesn't work for me. You got to really follow through and experiment a lot in order to make any kind of meaningful change or incorporate any new aspects into your flute playing. Number 8 mistake that flute players make is not practicing slow enough. If you are playing something in the practice room or you're practicing anything anywhere, and you are even the tiniest bit confused or frustrated or weird in any way, you are practicing it too fast. You gotta slow it down. Always start half tempo or less. Start it as slow as you possibly can. If you're trying to play something at 120 beats per minute for the quarter note, start it at 50 for the 8th note. Go so slow so that clarity and connection and ease and flow and comfort are programmed in along with your muscle memory. I firmly believe that when you program in muscle memory, it's not just about the finger transitions or reading the music. It's about the emotional and mental state that you were in when you did the programming. So do some high quality programming. Practice slow, break it down, cook it low and slow. Okay, now, number 9 mistake that flute players make is underestimating the amount of time it takes to learn something, including a piece of music. I just mentioned cooking it low and slow. Think of your favorite recipes that are in the crock pot all day long and the whole place smells good and it's so delicious when it's finally done. Compare it to zapping something for 30 seconds in the microwave. You got to cook it low and slow. So if you have a beautiful piece of music that you want to play, don't learn it 2 weeks before the performance, learn it 2 months. If you have an epic concerto you want to play, don't learn it a month before the performance, learn it a year before the performance. Massively expand the timeline compared to what you're thinking it takes to learn something. That'll give you more time for breaks, more time for really bonding with a piece or connecting with the change that you'd like to make. Okay, number 10 mistake that flute players make is thinking that what is happening right now in this musical moment is inevitably what's going to happen in the next musical moment. But you can evolve and change and have a fresh start anytime you like. Every breath is a fresh start. Every phrase is a fresh start. Every section is a fresh start. Literally every moment is a fresh start. You're a new person. You can completely alter the way you're approaching something. And a lot of times, if you put your mind to it, you can evolve naturally. So you could be rushing and freaked out, but over the course of a measure or two, you could calm down dramatically and do it in a musically convincing way. You could accidentally have a lot of physical tension, but you could let the steam out and little by little melt. And by the end of the page, you could be flowing and in comfort and ease and balance. You do have to do a lot of practicing to know what that flow and balance feels like so that you can know how to get back to it. But don't ever feel like what you're doing in this moment is something that you're stuck in for the next moment. You can always have a fresh start. Then last mistake, just a bonus one that I know so many of us make, including me, we skip our warm-ups. And when I am my best flute playing self, I never skip my warm up, even if I only have 20 minutes, rather than just going through the music that I'm about to perform. I'm always going to do my epic warm-up, which has fluttering and singing and harmonics, and it's built on the low register, and it helps me connect with my mind, my body, my flute. I highly recommend having a tradition, a ritual of a warm-up that's just your home base that you would never, ever skip. And sometimes when I do skip my warm-up, like I'm just teaching all the time or doing meetings and just life is happening, my flute playing starts to feel kind of strange. And I I know that if I need to perform, even just to do a good job demonstrating for my students, I'm usually about 3 days away from consistent warm-ups before my lip muscles, my embouchure, my tone, before it starts feeling more like me. So don't skip your warm-up. If I missed a common mistake that you think flute players make, will you let me know in the comments below this video? And also, if you have any follow-up questions, I am happy to answer. Hope you have a wonderful day. Enjoy playing your flute and brainstorm some ways that you can make a change and not make these super common mistakes that are tempting, but the reverse of them, practicing luxuriously, comfortably, with connection and meaning. It's just so satisfying. I hope you give that a try any chance you get.